This is Chapter 2, The Barbarian Prince. Fair warning, this chapter has a second language in it that is derived from a game, so it is not an actual real-world language. It is entirely made up, so please don't get in my throat for this. Honey, where have you run off to? I'm over here, Mama. There you are. Your mother slid her hands under your arms and twirled you around. She wore a bright smile on her face. Mom? Yes, Dove? Your face fell hearing her call you Dove. She never called you that. You meant love, right? No, I mean Dove. That's what you're called now, right? The realization hit you as your body shifted to your present-day self. There in front of you stood a faceless woman. You're not her, are you? No, Dove, but I'll see you soon. What? Your senses had slowly started to come back. The first was your touch. Pain emerged from your arm and shot up to your head. You moved your body, feeling slightly uncomfortable laying on the hard ground. You dug your nails into the ground, feeling the dirt underneath. You open your eyes, but instantly lower your arm to cover the bright sun beaming through in the leaves. Hello? You called out into the woods. You could hear a fire cracking next to you, so you had assumed someone else was there. The sound of movement to your left caught your attention. You turned your head, but winced when your arm had started to hurt again. Don't bow, dipshit. You're Montag Henyen. What? I mean, you could understand a few words like don't, dipshit, and you'll, but what else did he say? Whatever it was a sloppy mess between your language, Chirodilic, and his own. You watched as he stepped into your view. He scowled at you, but bent down over you. He roughly pushed the back of his hand to your head. It rested there for a few moments before he pulled it away. Halas kistja. Is nu zijn tam nunas, hij lost tier van vogan amar. You still didn't understand what he was saying, but you had guessed from how he was checking your temperature that you were most likely sick. You watched as he stood back up and walked over to the fire. You looked away, feeling your cheeks heat up. You hadn't realized his chest was exposed. You propped yourself up on your good arm and looked around. Your bag was hung up from a branch, along with what you assumed was his. You continued to look around, and you saw a rock covered in blood. You had hoped it was from an animal. You heard the rustling of a bush and quickly looked over to see a familiar red head emerging from it. Ubok no to de las koayens of pan? These help and walvris to pakolek? Oh, Tovapan. You saw the redhead rush over to you, quickly setting down the things he was carrying. Are you okay? How do you feel? Does your arm still hurt? The boy bombarded you with questions. He didn't even give you enough time to answer them. You moved yourself up to a sitting position and pushed your finger against his lips to silence him. His ears almost seemed to droop, but he apologized right after you removed your finger. My arm still hurts a little, but other than that, I feel fine. What about your chest? Feel anything unusual? What do you mean? You remembered how you were impaled and instantly moved your hand to your chest. To your surprise, you were shirtless. The only thing covering you were breast padding and bandages. The sudden acknowledgement to the fact you were exposed made you react sporadically. You covered yourself with your usable arm and frantically looked around for your shirt. You okay? You look a little panicked. Where's my shirt? Kirishima realized your embarrassment and quickly looked away. He almost looked shameful for looking at you in the first place. It's drying right now. I had to wash out the blood. But my chest doesn't hurt. I don't understand. Wasn't I impaled? What's he saying? He said, He paused for a moment before speaking up again. Bakugou watched the horn sink into your chest? It was silent for a while. The sound of cracking fire and distant bird chirping almost seemed to echo through your head. Is it still there? We're not sure. But the next town we're going to has a really good doctor. I'm sure she can tell you more about it when we get there. Bakugou had started to bark what you assumed were insults at the poor Kirishima. They seemed to disagree on something, but all he did was give the poor boy a scowl before looking away with a sour face. What's going on? We agreed on taking you to the next town, but you're on your own from there. Didn't sound like an agreement. Well, it was, more of an understanding. I'll go get you a shirt so we can start heading out. You curled your legs in to attempt to hide yourself until something acceptable was presented. It was a few more minutes before Kirishima returned, but he carried with him a very large shirt. I'm gonna have to sew the hole in your clothing, but you can wear my winter shirt. It might be a little big on you, but it'll have to work until we get to town. He presented the tan over-large shirt to you, and you quickly took it. That rude blonde had been staring at you the whole time Kirishima was gone, making you extremely uncomfortable. You popped your head through the shirt and pulled the sleeves over your arms, careful not to move your injury too much. You had noticed how Kirishima had grabbed his now scattered herbs and started to grind them in a bowl. You were now left trying to improve the coverage of your shirt. It was still quite a bit exposed on your upper chest, and the sleeves were almost too long on your own. You walked over to your bag and rummaged through it to try and find something that would help. You pull out a now clean but damp handkerchief. Did you wash this? Kirishima looked over to you and gave you a teethy smile before responding. I did. I thought you could use it more than me. Oh, thank you. You took the cloth and unraveled it. You took it and tied it around your neck, letting a majority of it lay over your chest. You rolled up your sleeves and used a hair tie to keep it still. You did the same on the other sleeve, but more carefully, considering this was your injured arm. You didn't worry about the clothing too much, though, since it was only a temporary thing until your clothes were dried. Here, this is the numbing cream that your book said to make. I hope it helps. He presented the bowl to you and walked off to where you had assumed was where the clothes were drying. You took the gross grain sludge and applied it all over your lower tricep. The sudden coolness of the cream made you shiver. Your arm didn't feel broken, but it was definitely bruised. You rubbed in the rest of the cream before the bowl was gently grabbed from your hand. Don't worry, I'll wash it for you. We're going to be heading out now, so grab your stuff. Bakugou almost instantly got up and started walking. He must have been antsy to start moving. You quickly grabbed your bag along with your bow and arrows and ran to catch up to Kirishima, who had been waiting for you. He watched as you walked past him, and you heard him put out the fire before walking with you to be at Bakugou's side. How's the cream? Oh, it's kicking in. Thank you so much for doing that. It's no problem. He gave you a smile, and you returned it. The three of you had continued to walk through the light-soaked woods. Bakugou was starting to walk further ahead, and Kirishima was right behind you. He had started to sew your clothes. You had thanked him and insisted that he didn't need to, but he brushed it off and continued anyway. It was silent until you reached the main path. The chattering of passing people, neighing horses, and faulty wagons made you seem more at peace. You stood behind Bakugou, watching as his fur-trimmed red cape almost flowed behind him. It almost shined against the thin sunlight leading through the canopy. What a weird boy. You think he's tribal? Definitely looks like it. Don't you know? That's the Barbarian prince, so be quiet. He's an absolute beast of a man. The conversation behind you caught your attention, but it was almost instantly shut down when Bakugou barked at them to be quiet. Kirishima apologized to them right after. You were curious, though. Kirishima? Yes, Wan? The people behind us, they said that Bakugou, he's the Barbarian prince? Is that true? He looked away for a moment, and then looked back at Bakugou, who was walking beside him. Bakugou ignored his gaze, though. It's true. Bakugou was born of royal blood, but he sort of hates it? Why? It's pretty complicated, but most royalty he's met hasn't been the nicest. Oh. You understood what he meant. While living with the orphanage, it would often ask the king for money to continue running. But he made a rule that they had to make their own money. That's why you would start working so young. What's with the necklaces? Are they a cultural thing? I'm not sure. He never really talked to me about them, but I know his cape is sewed with scales. Really? Well, that makes so much sense. I was wondering why they shine so much in the light. How'd you get them? The scales are from wyvern sheddings. When they reach a specific age, they start to shed their scales and grow new ones. What about the fur? The fur's from a kitsune. Kitsune? What's that? They're like fox guardians. You usually find them in abandoned shrines. Some people even say that they're connected to the gods, but I doubt it's true. Why kitsune fur, though? Is it soft? Oh yeah, it's soft. And it's completely magic resistant. His cape is just one big shield. You sure know a lot about that cape. Of course, I'm the one who made it for him. Really? You made that? That's actually so cool. Thanks. He doesn't say it, but he really does like it. He moved his mouth closer to your ear, talking with a whisper voice. I sometimes even catch him brushing out the fur. You giggled at the thought of him putting so much care into the cape, but your actions didn't go unnoticed. Was is Dre, Heise Kirishima. Nothing, my prince. Speaking of clothing, here. I just finished sewing it up. You took back your shirt and leather chest corset. Thank you so much, Kirishima. It's not much, but I have sweets. I could give you gold, but unfortunately, I don't even think I have enough to stay in a room tonight. You looked away, embarrassed at the fact you were so poor. No problem. I need to keep up on my skills anyway, so it wasn't any trouble. You should keep whatever food you have, especially if you're gonna continue your journey around. Thank you, and thank you as well. You leaned forward to look at Bakugou. He looked back with a confused look. You know, for letting me rest at your camp. He looked shocked at your words, but only for a moment. You're welcome. You speak Hierodilic? Only little. A little, Bakugou. It's only a little. He scolded Kirishima for correcting him, and gave him a dramatic eye roll before he started walking faster to try and get away from us. The rest of the journey went silent between the three of you. The conversations of passing travelers and the rattling carts helped keep you entertained. The sun had started to set by the time you emerged from the canopied path. You walked out letting the sweet oranges and harsh reds hit your face from the setting sun. The opened path ended shortly at the entrance to the town. It was relatively large. It even had a wall around it. You walked through the town seeing plenty of shops and cute homes. The streets were surprisingly busy, considering the fact that the stars had now sparkled above you. It didn't take long before you stood in front of a store that read, Miracle Girl. Let's hope that miracle part is true. This is where we part ways. We really enjoyed traveling with you. Tinvok fa hen mar drafisvir. Ignore him. Have a good rest of your night, Dove. You as well. Wait, how did you know? They were already walking out of sight. How the hell did he know about your nickname? You brushed it off as coincidence and opened the door with the clinking of a bell. 1 second. The voice of an older lady caught your attention. You watched as she walked out from behind a wall of beads and walked up to the desk. She had to stand on a box just to be able to reach the top. You caught me last minute. I was just about to close. How may I help you? Well, it's pretty complicated. You stood there discussing about how you had been impaled by a horned horse, and how the horn had snapped off from the beast and was now stuck in your chest. Her face had melted from understanding to absolute shock. She didn't even know what to say. How does one piss off the gods so harshly that they punish you as such? You shied away with shame at her words. She let out an exasperated sigh before speaking once again. You can call me Child. And yours? It's YN. All right, let's see what's wrong with you. You slumped at her words. She reminded you of Lady Sage and how harshly blunt she was. You followed the elder woman through her door of beads and to the back where you had noticed 3 people sitting and playing a card game. One had medium-length hair that was jet black and had tired eyes. He also had all black striped attire, with a long gray scarf that hung over his neck. Another had long blonde hair and a noticeable large smile. He had on a long dark blue jacket with gold buttons. The weirdly shaped glasses that sat on his face drew in most of the attention. The third was a girl with short red hair and a braid that was on the right side, but it sat longer than the rest of her hair. It ended with a blue bead. Her eyes were very saturated gray, but it almost seemed to complement her brightly colored red clothes that draped along her body. She looked like a pirate. Chihiro, come here for a second. Fine. Don't you dare cheat! Her accent was new to you. You had wondered where she was from. On her way over, she heavily eyed the blonde who put up his hands defensively. You watched her walk into a room and light a few candles. All right, come on in. You walked into the room that was walled with patchwork fabrics. You left the elderly woman in the lounge, who had started chatting with the two men playing cards. The red-haired pointed out a bed to lay on, and she grabbed what seemed to be a few random items. Where must I look? You slid off the handkerchief and pushed it into your bag. The top of your chest where you'd been impaled was covered with dirty wrapping around it. Your chest, huh? And what am I looking for? I think a horse horn? She stared at you, blinking for a moment before speaking. What was the horn shaped like? Almost like a sickle blade at the end of it. Phew! You must have really pissed it off then. She grabbed a pair of scissors and cut the bandages and yanked them from you. Is the horn under your skin? Yeah, how'd you know? That's why. She pulled a mirror from the table and used it to reveal your chest. Blue lines were traveling along it, reaching for your neck. You reached out and touched it, but were stopped by Chiro's hand. Wouldn't if I were you. The magic is already so negative. I wouldn't touch it if I were you. Could just make it worse. She reached her hand out over your chest. You watched as the palm of her hand started to glow. You watched with an odd expression, but it quickly switched to pain as she slapped her hand down on your chest. You let out a wince, but silenced yourself when she shushed you. It's still there, but... She went silent for a moment, looking at you. She seemed to hesitate to tell you something. It's too strong for me to remove. The magic from it is intertwining with your life inside you. Sorry, but there's nothing I can do about it. You slouched forward at her words, defeat filling your eyes, almost starting to seep out. Will it eventually kill me? Well, eventually, yes. It will probably consume you by its hatred, but you've got time. How long would you estimate? I don't know, maybe a few weeks? 5 guaranteed, but you could sneak in a 6th one. You should use that time to find someone more experienced with unbinding magic. Do you know anyone? You wiped your eyes and watched as she walked to the table and started to write things down. You got up and tied the handkerchief back around your neck. Here. You scrambled as she pushed a letter and map into your hands. I marked a place on the map. It's a black market trade business in Nadeva's castle town. There's a kid there that can help. You looked at the map, examining it, until you found the city circled with brown ink. You rolled it up and placed it into your bag before looking at the letter. When you find him, give him that letter. His eyes only. She said that last part with a deeper tone. She even flicked your nose before walking out. You were escorted out the building and waved goodbye. You pulled out the map and compared the distance between the town and the one that you needed to get to. 4 days walking. Maybe 2 if I catch a wagon. You shoved the makeshift map back into your bag and adjusted the bow that sat on your back. The string had been rubbing into your chest, making it sting from the friction. You ignored the pain and walked through the lantern-lit town. The stars littered the sky as you walked out, the glow almost illuminating the path ahead of you. It was hard to see, but it was just enough for you to continue on. You walked along the path, feeling the cool night breeze hit your arms as you walked. The sound of passing wagons and the rocks beneath your feet kept you company. I hope I can make it there in time. This next part is just me talking about author's note and stuff, so feel free to not listen to it, but I would recommend it. I am so sorry that it took me so long. I know that I said I was going to have this posted way sooner than I actually am posting it, but in full honesty, I'm really embarrassed about posting these now because I listen back on these and it's just funny to hear me talking and saying these, especially with this new language that I'm having to learn how to pronounce. And then the old lady voice, I ended up keeping a blooper because it was my first time doing an old lady voice. And I started laughing about it. So I ended up keeping it in. Oh. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed chapter 2. I'm already working on chapter 3. Some parts in the story I didn't actually say. It wasn't anything like important. It was all just like language conversation. If you want to know the translations though, I would definitely recommend checking out my Wattpad account and reading the book there, because the chapters will come out way sooner than the actual online storybook version. So, yeah, that was fun. Have a good rest of your guys' day. Thanks for spending time listening to this crap. Anyway, love you. Bye.